I'm Jane Copier, and you're listening to Happy in the Middle, a podcast for Christian women who want to make the second half of life the best half. This podcast is all about helping women to reignite their spark and step into their divine power in order to create deep and connected relationships and also find that fulfillment and satisfaction they crave. So, if you're ready to grow, join me and learn how you too can overcome guilt, resentment, disappointment, and enjoy the fruits of creating a life well lived. Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Happy in the Middle. This is episode number 125, Identifying Your Losing Strategies. How are you, beautiful? Thank you for joining me. I've got something special in store for you today. I'm hoping that today's episode will help you to come to know and understand yourself and the ways that you operate in your own relationships a little better. We can't fix what we're unaware of. So when you take a courageous look at your own thoughts and behaviors, it helps you to get more honest and it inspires that growth that's needed. We all have blinders when it comes to our own patterns. We're just too close to it to see it. And it wasn't until I did this work with my own coach that I was able to recognize the ways that I was messing up in my own marriage. And I tell you, you guys, that work has been such a gift in my life. The person I am now, the partner I am now compared to who I was for the first 20 years of my marriage is just unrecognizable. This work is hard. I'm not going to downplay it. It is hard work. But once you rip the Band-Aid off, once you step into it and you start making an effort, it gets easier and easier. And the ease that you get to feel in your relationship is worth any amount of that initial effort. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you change it, it changes the dynamic. Once I was made aware of my losing strategies, the way my own thoughts and behaviors were sabotaging the joy that I wanted to feel with my husband, it gave me the power to make some very needed changes. And I hope that today's episode might inspire some of those changes in you as well. So we're going to dive into the top 10 losing strategies that we use in our relationships. Terry Real, who is a relationship expert and someone I refer to often, describes a losing strategy as behavior that tries to get you love, tries to get you safety or control, but actually undermines the connection that you're hoping for. And it ends up giving you the opposite of what you want. These strategies aren't random. They're adaptive, right? Most of us learn them at a very early age. They were often pretty brilliant solutions that helped you get what you wanted. For instance, when you were a child, perhaps you learned that sulking was a behavior that would get your parents to give in to you, right? Or maybe it was throwing a tantrum that got you a treat at the checkout line. Maybe it was pouting in the corner and that strategy got you the attention that you wanted, right? People would ask, "What's wrong? Are you okay? What do you need?" Right? These kinds of strategies were effective for you as a child, but in adult relationships, they're not appropriate and they erode trust. They erode intimacy. They erode mutual respect because at the end of the day, they're a form of trying to use manipulation to get what you want. But again, the reason they're called losing strategies is because they don't work and they actually work against you. So a helpful way to think about it is that a losing strategy is anything that you do in order to protect yourself or to avoid making an honest effort that ends up hurting the relationship. Okay, so if you think back to the times I've talked about your lower brain, remember that your lower brain's motivational triad is to avoid pain, seek pleasure, and conserve energy. That is the basis of the foundation of that low brain. It is the purpose of that low brain. Avoid pain, seek pleasure, conserve energy. When we're using losing strategies, we're working at the direction of the low brain. Now, I first want to say this clearly. If you recognize yourself in any of these things that we talk about today, this isn't a reason to judge yourself, right? This is simply information. It's an opportunity to understand yourself a little bit better because every single one of these patterns comes from our lower brain's operating system, and we all have them. So our work isn't to beat ourselves up about it. It's just to become aware and understand that that is why you act the way that you do. And then to choose on purpose how you would rather respond in the future, how you can choose a new thought, a new behavior that actually works to accrue to the goodness between you and your partner. So let's walk through these 10 most common losing strategies. And again, as you listen, just notice what resonates. Try it on. Does this feel like me? Right? And if it is something that you do, I really encourage you to admit that to yourself. Just a simple in your brain, yes, I do that, can be very, very powerful. Just that courage to acknowledge it is the first step forward. And when we admit those things to ourselves, it does make us more powerful. Because if it's something that you're doing, you can correct it, right? If you continue to blame your partner for all of it, you put yourself in that victim mode. You feel acted upon instead of powerful. And that's a pretty hopeless place to be. So try to be really honest with yourself as you listen to these. Okay, the first losing strategy that probably 90% of the population uses at times is preferring to be right instead of being connected. And boy, do I know this one, because I used to really love to be right. And I would honestly say that as much as I used to love to be right, I equally love now to be wrong. I don't mind being wrong about anything. It doesn't bother me one bit. But what this looks like is needing to prove your point, right? Needing someone else to agree with you and feeling that desperation to validate your correctness, right? This looks like providing facts instead of focusing on the feelings between you. This is wanting to win an argument at all costs, even if it alienates your partner, right? It's that lower brain's desire to be correct. But the sad truth is that when we prioritize being right, the relationship is the one that loses. Okay, the second strategy is emotional withdrawal. And this is pulling away when things feel uncomfortable, dismissing your partner's request to connect by kind of shutting down, needing space, but then not coming back to repair, right? And the reason we do this is because distance feels really relieving in the moment, right? We have a hard time tolerating emotion, so we disconnect, we pull away, but it often leaves the other person feeling alone and confused. So staying engaged, even if it's difficult, takes a lot of emotional regulation on your part, but it's exactly what's needed in that situation. Okay, losing strategy number 3, minimizing your needs. What this looks like is telling yourself, I'm fine, when you're actually hurt or you're longing for something more. You're longing for something different, right? We don't allow ourselves to want things. This is such a common one for strong, capable women, right? If this is you, you likely historically used this strategy as a coping method. It probably helped you to survive. It helped you to thrive in difficult circumstances. But when your needs don't have a voice, it's not like they just disappear. They don't disappear. They just go deep underground. And whether you acknowledge them or not, they will show up. And usually that show up looks like resentment and anger. And so allowing yourself to matter, allowing your partner in, letting them know that you have needs and desires is a huge first step to resolving this strategy. Okay, losing strategy number 4. And I'm just going to plow through these, you guys. I probably will go back and do a podcast on each one of them because I think they're so important. But losing strategy number 4 is similar to number 3, and it's overfunctioning and self-reliance, right? This looks like I'll just do it myself. And this one is tricky because it can feel like strength, and in many ways it is. It's not a bad thing to be capable, to be able to do a lot, to be someone who functions really well. But it can also quietly block intimacy because what you're doing is you are not inviting your partner to partner with you. And sometimes we do this in a defensive manner, like perhaps you've asked for some help in something and your partner has failed to show up for you in the past. Until you learn how to communicate that disappointment honestly and then stop overfunctioning so that there is room for your partner to step up and step in, you're going to continue that lack of connection that you want to feel. Because real connection requires letting someone be there for you too, asking for it. And again, not in a way that you're demanding it, but you're allowing them to make a choice around it. Okay, losing strategy number 5 is criticism and fault finding. And of course, criticism and fault finding is just focusing on what is wrong instead of what's working. Now, I spoke extensively about this in last week's episode, number 124. So if you know you're someone who is critical of your spouse, please go back and listen to that one. It is so important to understand how this strategy undermines your relationship. It will really create so much anger and hatred, right? At the bottom of it, what happens is that when we criticize someone, when someone feels our judgment, they do not lean in toward us, they pull away. So it really doesn't matter the excuses you tell yourself for this behavior. If you want someone to change, criticism is not the way of getting that done, and it will build a sturdy wall between you. All right, losing strategy number 6 is defensiveness. Defensiveness is such an ugly emotion to feel. Just try it on for a minute. Think about the last time you felt defensive. You felt some criticism and then you wanted to defend yourself, right? Now we try to get out of that by explaining, by justifying, by pushing back, by pointing out our partner's flaws instead of having them look at our own, right? That at that root of defensiveness, there's this deep feeling of shame that we are wrong instead of something I did was wrong, right? We feel insufficient. So instead of hearing your partner, your brain is simply working to protect itself, right? And this makes true understanding almost impossible because you don't take responsibility for yourself. The remedy to this is owning up to things, right? Instead of letting it touch on that wound, that inner wound of feeling shame and feeling insufficient, you take a breath. You find the 2% that's true and you stop making it mean that you're a bad person. Good people make mistakes too. You're not fooling anyone, especially your partner. You can't protest your way or excuse your way out of this. All it does is erode trust. So if you find that you're a defensive person, this is work for you. Losing strategy number 7 is avoiding conflict altogether. So keeping the peace by not bringing things up is a way of losing every single time. When we store things without bringing them up and avoiding conflict, what we're doing is I want you to just think about turning the temperature up on a pressure cooker. And every time you avoid or you won't engage because you're afraid of that conflict, it is building more and more pressure until you explode. Peace built on silence is not real peace. It's simply avoidance. And avoiding problems in a marriage might feel like a good idea in the moment because who likes contention, right? But the problems don't go away. They don't just magically disappear, and they will come knocking on the door over and over again until you give them attention, until you blow up, right? Avoidance is just disconnection in disguise. Make no mistake about it. It is a choice that you're making to disconnect from your partner when you avoid. Okay, losing strategy number 8 is scorekeeping. Anybody like to keep the score out there? This is pretty common too, right? It's tracking who does more, who gave more, who tried harder, who got to have this or have that, and who won the last time, who got to have more fun. This strategy makes love start to feel like a transaction. Instead of being happy for our partner's joy, we focus on ourselves. It's a very selfish mindset. We focus on our wants, our needs, and we resent our partner for filling their wants and their needs. And we fill up our bucket of resentment. Okay, losing strategy number 9 is invalidating your partner's feelings. This is absolutely a form of gaslighting or challenging your partner's version of reality. Saying things like, you're overreacting, or that's not what happened, or you shouldn't feel that way, or turning around and blaming them for creating the problem instead of holding space for them and seeking to understand, even when you don't. Right? When you dismiss or you downplay your partner's emotions, even if that's not your intention, it can create this deep emotional loneliness in them. And that creates a huge divide because think about this. If your partner cannot share their heartfelt emotions with you, who can they share them with? You may not want to find out the answer to that question. Make some space, hold some space, allow for your partner's emotions. Go back and listen to my episode on validating. That one is really good too. Okay, finally, losing strategy number 10 And this is refusing to repair after conflict. What this looks like is holding on to your hurt, right? Avoiding reconnection. It's withholding love and affection and not working to understand what happened so that you can change the pattern in the future. I'm going to do a whole episode on this next week, so stay tuned. But for those who simply try to sweep it under the rug and move on with a quick sorry and thinking that that is repair, it's important that you know that it's not conflict that breaks relationships. It is a lack of repair afterward. So this losing strategy can really cost you your relationship in the end. You have to deal with your problems. You have to sort through it. You have to talk through it. You have to work through it together. That's true repair. Okay, my friend, as you've listened to these, you might be thinking, oh, wow, I do some of these. Well, of course you do, right? We all do. Again, the goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness, because underneath every single one of these losing strategies, there's just a fear, right? A very human fear. We all have fear. And it could be fear of being controlled, fear of being rejected, fear of being overwhelmed, fear of losing yourself, exposing too much, right? So instead of asking the question, what's wrong with me? A much more powerful question is, what am I trying to protect right now? What is my fear? That question opens the door to compassion. And from that place, change becomes possible when we can feel compassion for ourselves and say, hey, girl, I understand why you feel that way. I understand why you worry about that. It makes sense. And we love ourselves from that place. Then we can say, okay, even though we feel that way, do we want to continue down this road? Or is there something we can tweak? The more you know, the more you see these in yourselves, the more that you can begin to gently shift, right? By making just small, meaningful changes. Instead of withdrawing, maybe you stay a little longer. Instead of saying, I'm fine, maybe you share just a little bit more. Instead of being right, maybe you choose connection instead of being right. Just try to give 5% more. That's all it takes to start creating a new, healthier dynamic. Going back to Terry Real's framework, healing isn't about eliminating these strategies overnight. It's about recognizing them in real time as they're happening, right? Taking responsibility without shaming yourself. And then choosing a relational response instead of a protective one. That's how people move from how do I stay safe to how do we stay connected? Thank you so much for being here today. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need it too. And if you want some help and support in addressing these strategies in yourself, please book a free call with me at janecopier.com and let's get to work making your marriage amazing. This changes your life. This changes who you are. It changes how you relate in the world, and it grows you up in all the best ways. It is the best work that you can do because there's such a ripple effect. It not only changes your own marriage, but it changes the way that you interact in your community, in your extended family, with your children. There just isn't anything more important. So if you feel that tug on your heart to do something about these strategies that you use in your life that you know are self-defeating, again, please reach out. I would love to work with you. Okay, my friends, as always, I'm cheering you on. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next time. Hey, if you are ready to get unstuck and make your midlife amazing, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And I want to invite you to join my Empty Nest Academy, where you will learn how to transform your mind, your relationships, and your life. Come free yourself of regret and disappointment and be so much happier. Listen, sis, we've got one shot at this big, beautiful life. Let's make it amazing. Go to janecopier.com, that's JaneCopier.com, and sign up today. And if you're not sure what's right for you, book a free consultation with me and we'll talk it over together. And we'll make sure to get you on the path that serves you the best. See you inside.